Hi, I'm Ross Gilfillan. Welcome to Global Franchise Meets. In this series, we talk to the leaders and the experts of international franchising. Today, we meet Mike Bidwell of Dwyer Group.
It's Mike Bidwell, and I'm the president and CEO of Dwyer Group. We're an international franchisor. We have currently 16 franchise brands around the world. We operate in 11 different service verticals, all focused on repair, maintain, and enhance. Essentially, our brands operate around break, fix, service maintenance for people's homes and businesses. And I've been involved in the industry for over 30 years. I originally started as a franchisee back when I was 26 years old, and had one of our Dwyer Group brands, and then ultimately became the first multi-concept franchisee for Dwyer Group, and later had 3 other brands. After 11 years of doing that, I moved into the world headquarters as one of the brand presidents. And well, I think so. Yeah, I absolutely believe it is. Of course, franchising isn't really an industry. We refer to it that way a lot, but it's more of a business format, and we operate across many different industries. And it is amazing how many different industries, in fact, are franchised today. Many things that people didn't realize, from sports teams to various industrial businesses even. And then the ones that people might traditionally think are franchised. But I'd say it has a bright future because people have wanted to be in their own business. They've wanted to be self-employed for thousands of years now. That hasn't changed. But what I think may have changed is people want to be more connected now than perhaps before. And they're looking for ways to do that. And franchising offers that. The other thing I would say is that business is more complex than it's ever been. So franchising helps mitigate the risk of being in your own business and take some of that complexity out. So for that reason, I think franchising does have a bright future. Well, it can be lucrative, and if you get it right, and it can also be exciting. You know, if you like the idea of getting involved with building a brand and extending a footprint across perhaps a very large market, that can be very exciting to some people. It can be daunting, but and once you get it built, you should have a fairly predictable and stable revenue stream, but certainly not without risk and efforts. But that's why somebody would consider it. I would say it's a bigger job than they may think. Some may think that I'm going to get this master franchise and I'll find a lot of people to open these businesses, and I'll consult with them and help them do it. But then I'm going to collect royalty checks, and it's probably a lot more work than people think. They really have to understand the model. I would recommend that they visit with others that have traveled the same journey, so that they really understand what they're getting into. They need to understand what kind of training and support does the franchisor offer. If it's international, if the franchisor is international, not in the country you're considering, do they know anything about the market that you're in? And do they have an international support group, which is different? Or is this just something they're wanting to do as an aside? And I would say it takes a diverse skill set to operate a master franchise. Essentially, you need all the skill sets that the franchisor themselves possess. So, and those are rarely possessed by just one individual. I think franchise development is the biggest one. Again, that part appears probably easier to the casual observer than it really is. Franchise development, franchise sales has actually become a very difficult and competitive thing to execute on. And you need the right skill set for it. It's going to take longer than one might think, and some people have a knack for it, and that's certainly helpful. But if you don't, you just need to understand what might be involved there. And again, that gets back into visiting others that have done this. The other thing I would say there is that the challenge you might run into is that keep in mind that when you do get people into the business, that you're dealing with independently minded individuals that have taken on a risk, the risk of opening their own business and putting their capital, deploying their capital. And then you're trying to get them to operate within your brand's parameters. And sometimes that can be a little tricky. It takes part diplomacy, part inspiration, and part compliance officer. And I would say it's a delicate balance among those items. Not everyone gets that down well. Well, I would want to understand, is there an appetite for whatever it is I'm thinking about doing in this market? Is there other evidence of a consumer appetite for the service or the product? So I would want to know that. Show me the evidence of success. And then if I were going to get into it, I would want to have some kind of a pilot to get started. And then you need the right support, again, which usually doesn't come. You need the right skill sets, and that usually isn't possessed by one person. So having the right working capital, the right people on the bench, and I would say get good advice as well outside of the advice and support you would get from your franchisor. Certainly starting with good legal advice from a franchise attorney in your market that understands the franchising relationship so that you're not wasting a lot of time with that attorney getting up to speed about franchising and perhaps struggling with some of the contractual things that are necessary in a franchise relationship. And I would also recommend that one go to the franchise association in their market, if there is one. They can be quite helpful. I would start with the my country's franchise association, if there is one available. Some of the countries where franchising is a little early stage, there may not be a formal association. In that case, you might try the International Franchise Association. You can go to franchise.org, make contact there, and they may be able to steer you to a good resource in that particular country. Usually there's advisors available, and certainly legal help. Franchise legal help, that's a good place to start. And then I would find somebody also that is a master franchisee of perhaps another brand and make contact with them. See if they'll give you some time to ask questions, see what journey they've traveled, and maybe they'll even consider mentoring you. So that would be my advice. Really important to check references and talk to others doing what you're attempting to do. I think the franchise model does a couple of things. I think for the consumer, the customer, it provides predictability, certainty. It provides consistency. Whether we're consuming a service, a product, a meal in a restaurant, we tend to be creatures of habit, and people want a predictable outcome or experience. So it provides consumers with convenience and consistency. I think for the business owner, that it provides them with kind of the same thing. It mitigates some of the risk with getting into your own business. Most small businesses fail within just a few years. Startups are hard, and as I mentioned, business is more complex than it ever has been. Franchising kind of flips that on its head. It takes some of the uncertainty out of and the risk out of opening your own business, because you're looking to implement a proven business model. And most startups can't take that time to navigate getting to a proven business model. So with franchising, when you open in a particular system, you're really just executing on that particular model. So it's kind of up to you to go out and make it happen. But you're not having to reinvent something that might work. Probably the biggest challenge that I've noticed over the last 2 or 3 years, it's more difficult to sell franchises than it used to be because the space has become more crowded. There's more franchisors than there's ever been. So people looking to get into business have more choices. And there aren't any more people on average looking to get in business than there used to be. So at any given time, you have a certain number of people looking to do that. But there are certainly a lot more franchisors looking to sell their concept to folks. So that has just made it more difficult, and you have to be better than you used to be at finding people to buy your brand. Like all efficient markets, that's what happens when there's a certain amount of success. Lots of competition enters the space, and you have to become even more efficient. And I think we're experiencing that in franchising. Well, I think it's very important. If you're looking to get into franchising, it's a great place to go to see what the opportunities are. Also make contacts with folks in the space. If you do get into something, you may need to consult with some of those contacts or ask for referrals with somebody that can help. I would also say that my long experience in franchising shows that it's a very collegial community. People are willing to help and support one another, and you can't get that if you're not participating. If you don't show up, you can't participate. So I think it's an important part of success in franchising.